Succinct. Question number 3, Ururoa Flavell.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou katoa, ko taku pātai he pātai ki te minita mō ngā take tiriti. To the Minister of Treaty Negotiations, does he agree that, quote, consulting involves the statement of a proposal, not yet finally decided upon, listening to what others have to say, considering their responses, and then deciding what will be done? And if so, how do the government's consultation hui about the Shares Plus proposal align with this definition?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yes, and totally. Is that succinct enough?
Order. Order. Before I come back to the Honourable Member, it might be, but it's not a good enough answer to a primary question. The member will now, or the Minister will now, give a considered, because the standing orders actually require a Minister to give a constructive answer to a question, and I'm on my feet. Ministers, just take a deep breath for a moment. To a primary question where there are no words in that question that are in any way provocative, there are no words in the question whatsoever, I do not believe that is an acceptable answer for the House. I accept that it is an answer, but it's not acceptable given the standing orders in that ministers are expected to provide information in answering questions, and that did not provide any information. The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Well, succinct is obviously elastic.
Order.
The quote.
Order.
The quote.
Order. Order. I'm on my feet. The Minister will desist from that line of action. He'll just treat the House with the respect it deserves. The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yeah, the quote draws on the finding of the Court of Appeal in 1992 in a case involving Wellington International Airport, reported, I think, in 1993, 1 NZLR at page 671. And what that decision confirms is that the party consulting can have a working plan in mind. And that's the position here, Mr. Speaker. The government has a preliminary view on Shares Plus and a working plan based on that preliminary view, but it has an open mind and is willing to change its mind if submissions are persuasive. Succinct and to the point.
I thank the Minister. Ururoa Flavell, supplementary question.
Does the Minister support the view of the Deputy Prime Minister that, quote, the government has already said that such a shareholding would be unattractive, unnecessary and unworkable? And if so, what assurance can he give Māori that the government is not entering into consultation with a predetermined outcome in mind?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yes, I can give that member in the House an assurance that the government has an open mind. As I said, the government's formed a preliminary view about Shares Plus, and that view is noted in its letters on the Treasury website, and it's in that context that the Deputy Prime Minister's comments are to be understood. Again, the view's preliminary, and the government is consulting in good faith in order to hear whether there are other views about Shares Plus.
Ururoa Flavell. Ururoa Flavell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree with Māori lawyer Joshua Hitchcock that, quote, in many respects the government is treating this as a pro forma exercise in consultation? It is merely ticking the boxes to satisfy the court in the event of a challenge to the sales process that it has followed due process, end of quote, and if not, why not?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
No, I certainly do not. It's not a matter of simply ticking boxes, and governments have learnt a lot since the decision of the Court of Appeal in 1993. The government has a preliminary view. It wants that to test that view, and that's why the Deputy Prime Minister, and next week the Deputy Prime Minister and I will be having these hui, one of which was very well attended in Taupo today. The government acknowledges it may not have thought of everything. It wants to hear other views, and then it will make a decision, and that's why we will have a consultation.
The Honourable Peter Dunne.
Mr. Speaker, given the terse and succinct nature of the Minister's answer, could he elaborate on what is the government's preliminary view?
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Yes, the government's preliminary view, as set out on the website and in Treasury papers and in the view of the Deputy Prime Minister, is that there are more minuses than plus with Shares Plus. Take, for example, the suggestion that minority shareholders could have some say in the appointment of directors to the company who would then act on the wishes of the minority shareholders. Well, in terms of company law, that's quite problematic because directors once appointed owe a duty to the company, not the people who put them there.
Question number 4, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.